Live everywhere.
Daily Kos Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman, Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? It is Tuesday, May 16th, 2017, and I woke up this morning just thinking, should we continue? Should we do this thing? Did I get him? I feel like the Lester Holt character from Saturday Night Live. Is it over? Is he still the president? I guess he is. He's tweeting this morning, and we're paying attention, so that must mean something. I don't know. It's really the sort of thing that makes you want to, give up on everything. Nothing matters. That was really about all I can say about this. Man, I guess we're going to have to pay some attention to the fact that there's an even bigger embarrassment today. What was it? Let's see. Yesterday morning, I forget what we were embarrassed about the president. It was outrageous, of course. And leave it to Trump. By the afternoon, something even more outrageous had happened. It happened a week ago, but we're only just finding out about it now, though the explanation for it is that the president just wanted to be open and share lots of information with people. Okay. So, you all know what I'm talking about, of course. The president spilled the beans to the Russians. The big visit to the White House, to the Oval Office, from the foreign minister and Russian ambassador turns out to have been more embarrassing than previously known, and I think it's going to get worse, by all reports. You're likely more or less up to date because I think this turns out to have been the most viewed story that the Washington Post has ever put up in terms of number of simultaneous views. Apparently there was some cheering going on yesterday at in the White House press room as the Washington Post folks realized that they were getting more hits simultaneously on this story than the day that the Access Hollywood tapes broke. And with good reason, this is considerably more serious. The president, when he had the Russians over, in addition to giving them Diet Coke, presumably, because all you have to do is hit this button. It's a fantastic thing. Have you tried this? Can I hit this for you? Do you want to, Sergey, Diet Coke? Anybody? I'm going to hit it a couple of times, and we're all going to drink Diet Cokes, okay? If you don't want them, I'll have them. And while they were there, he spilled the beans about a foreign intelligence operation to which he was privy because the country in question had agreed to share that information with their ally, the United States, with the proviso that, of course, it not be passed on to any other foreign governments. But he didn't care about that. He wanted to look cool. He wanted to look like he really was in the know about things. It was an amazing revelation, really. Almost as amazing as the fact that he actually revealed this information, which was that I guess this foreign country had infiltrated ISIS, as no doubt many operatives are trying to do and have done and are still doing. But they had had some tremendous success with it. And I guess if I gather correctly, the information had led to an alert that raised awareness of a possible attack on an international flight that had to do, I think, if I read correctly, this is one of the attacks that they thought might be coming via someone's laptop computer, which has led to a crackdown on American flights or inbound flights to America of people using their laptops while in flight. And I guess he thought it would be really cool if he showed those Russians, I'm as smart as you. It's sort of like the freshman tries to drink the seniors under the table only to find out that he just hasn't got the stomach for it, doesn't know what he's doing, and ends up puking on his shoes. And that's all that's the best metaphor I can draw for it. He wanted them to know what kind of intelligence he was getting. And I can almost understand. I would almost credit him with this if I thought he was smart enough to really understand this stuff. The idea of, well, I wanted to share intelligence with them, because we all ought to be sharing intelligence about ISIS. We're all supposed to be in this fight together. The problem is, well, there's about 1,000 problems with that, including, I mean, the one that really matters is the country that, risked the lives of its operatives to develop this information said, don't tell anybody this. And really, what point would there have been in his telling that? He gave an excuse this morning about how he wanted to share intelligence with our allies. And okay, he believes Russia is our ally. He's an idiot, but he believes that. But what was the point of telling them this? I mean, the alert about the laptop is already public. Why bother? They're, I'm sure, monitoring flights into Russia, to the extent that anybody does that at all, and looking out for laptops. What's the point of telling them who developed the information and in what city the information was discovered and developed? Wow. I mean, there's so many levels on which this is incredible, of course, including the one in which the Washington Post's reporting is itself rather circumscribed by, because the intelligence services went to them and said, listen, please don't republish, don't reprint all of this additional information. We want to contain this leak, insofar as it's still possible. I don't want it to spread and make it even worse. So the Washington Post was more careful with the information than Donald Trump was. The whole thing is obviously quite insane, as he is. When Bill started us off with his morning tweet, he gets at the heart of it, just asking, hey, have you heard any good top secret code words lately? Because this was like super high level intelligence, as it turns out. Let me start off, I guess, by reviewing the Washington Post. I ought to go to somebody who has some organized thoughts about this. Greg Miller and Greg Jaffe are the authors of this highly read piece. Trump revealed highly classified information to Russian foreign minister and ambassador. So we'll just read it through just for the organization of the thoughts at this point, to see if we can give some form to just how outrageous this thing really is. President Trump revealed highly classified information, they say, to the Russian foreign minister and ambassador in a White House meeting last week, according to current and former U.S. officials who said Trump's disclosures jeopardized a critical source of intelligence on the Islamic State. By the way, the reporting by last night was that intelligence experts, on cable TV news were saying, by the way, to the extent that this represents one or some finite number of actual field operatives, those people are dead. Those guys are probably already dead. They're going to be dead shortly. They've been given up, essentially. So where we are, this is where we stand, is Mr. Heel Spurs and Mr. STDs were my personal Vietnam has killed foreign intelligence assets to show off to Russian spies who, and it didn't even work. They no doubt thought he was a complete moron. And they were right. And now that's that. He's dead, and where are we? What have we got to show for it? Nothing. The Russians still don't think he's smart. It's very difficult to think he's smart. I see the photo or video, I guess, that's illustrating this piece. And again, I mean, this is the least important thing in the world, but the president has a tie a mile long, and they're always laughing. And this picture, this still frame from this video, Trump's sort of chuckling a little bit too, and you wonder what they're all laughing about, because the two Russians are looking at each other, and he's looking at them, laughing. Like, what's so funny, guys? And then you got me laughing. I'm like nervously laughing. What's funny about that? I told you something serious about serious intelligence business. Why are you looking at each other funny and laughing? The information the president relayed had been provided by a U.S. partner through an intelligence sharing arrangement considered so sensitive that details have been withheld from other allies, and tightly restricted even within the U.S. government, officials said. The partner had not given the United States permission to share the material with Russia, and officials said Trump's decision to do so endangers cooperation from an ally that has access to the inner workings of the Islamic State. After Trump's meeting, senior White House officials took steps to contain the damage placing calls to the CIA and National Security Agency. On the ground, right there, in the Oval Office, people knew the president was doing wrong. And immediately when they were done, the first thing they did, call the NSA, call the CIA, help us contain this ridiculous leak. This is code word information. That sounds pretty important, right? What does that mean? I'll tell you a little bit about it later, or at least I'll let somebody else tell you about it. I will read you the article that explains what that is. This is code word information, said a U.S. official familiar with the matter using terminology that refers to one of the highest classification levels used by American spy agencies. Trump revealed more information to the Russian ambassador than we have shared with our own allies, our actual allies. The revelation comes as the president faces rising legal and political pressure on multiple Russia-related fronts. Last week, of course, firing James Comey in the midst of a bureau investigation, FBI, into possible links between the Trump campaign and Moscow. Trump's subsequent admission that his decision was driven by, quote, this Russia thing, was seen by critics as attempted obstruction of justice. One day after dismissing Comey, Trump welcomed Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, a key figure in earlier Russia controversies, into the Oval Office. And again, I will point out that for whatever reason, I really don't know what their motivation was for this, but the White House did not list Kislyak on the guest list for that day, for that meeting. And nobody really knows why, but they don't keep visitors logs, so who cares? What's the difference? The difference is that everybody else who's met with Kislyak is under investigation and getting fired. And you want it to be open and honest with Russia, right? Here's the tweet from this morning, as a matter of fact. I see that here. As president, I wanted to share with Russia at an openly scheduled White House meeting, which I have the absolute right to do, facts pertaining, the absolute right to do pertains to the intelligence information that he gave away. We'll talk about his absolute right, perhaps a little bit later. Right here, I just wanted to point out, as president, I wanted to share with Russia in an openly scheduled meeting. How openly scheduled was it? It was so openly scheduled that I wouldn't tell you that Sergei Kislyak was coming. That's so super duper open. Okay, so, he's lying. Big deal. He's lying again. Anyway, one day after dismissing Comey, he has Lavrov and Kislyak in. It was during that meeting, officials said, that Trump went off script, boing, and began describing details of an Islamic State terrorist threat related to the use of laptop computers on an aircraft. For almost anyone in government, discussing such matters with an adversary would be illegal. As president, Trump has broad authority to declassify government secrets, making it unlikely that his disclosures broke the law. We'll pause here for just a second to point out that it is true that the president has the authority to instantly, really, declassify previously classified information. Why is this? Is there a law somewhere that says it just is automatically okay? Not really. I don't think so. There may be a clause of clarification in the statutes, but I think what we're talking about here is the entire classification system for information, for everything, is based on executive authority. The inherent executive authority that comes with all the constitutional prerogatives of the president. Basically, though, our formal system of classification rests on and is derived from the president's authority to classify things. Now, most of that authority has been delegated to outside structures because it's not something, you don't want the president spending his entire day and his entire term, every day, every minute of his term would be occupied, and he still wouldn't finish the work of deciding what's going to be classified and what's not. I mean, that's not what we hire a president to do. But the authority is his, and he delegates it to others, and there's a formalized process, and most presidents and most operatives of all kinds in the government find it most effective to leave the question of how to classify, what will be classified, and at what level will it be classified, and who gets clearance to share what to the outside structure. It's not how the president wants to spend his day, but all the things that they do, all the things that are decided by this classification bureaucracy that exists, it's all derived from the president's power and his delegation of that power to them. So it makes a certain amount of procedural, legal sense to say, well, if all classification authority comes from the president, then it really doesn't make any sense to think about it doesn't make any sense to think of the president telling, or here's what I guess I'll put it this way: it doesn't make any sense to think about not allowing the president to make the decision to declassify things if he wants to, if she wants to. In the future, I'm sure somebody else will make this mistake. Anyway. And it may be a woman. So who knows? Well, the equal opportunity for the genders at some point in a more perfect future, both men and women will be responsible for making this terrible, terrible mistake. So the idea, though, is you got to give. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to come up with a structure in which the president, who has the authority to make all the decisions about what will and won't be classified and at what level, doesn't also have the ability to say, I disagree with the intelligence bureaucracy and I want this to be classified at a different level, or I don't want this to be classified at all, or I will share it with this person or that person. It also has the practical effect of avoiding a lot of really uncomfortable situations in which an otherwise more or less competent president might accidentally or on the fly make a decision about the sharing of classified information for strategic purposes. And it has come to be expanded to cover just outright mistakes. That's probably not such a great idea. There's no law to lean on in this, but I doubt very much whether the thinking has ever been that the president has the absolute right, even totally by accident, to reveal information that's terribly damaging to American national security to anyone he wants to. What exists, or what was presumed to exist, and this is another place where Donald Trump has smashed the living crap out of our norms and we'll never get it back. Though there's been a lot of damage done in this area by previous presidents too. What was not, I don't think, intended was that the president doesn't have to take any care whatsoever to protect important secrets because he can never be arrested for it no matter who he tells what to. The idea was that no president would be this irresponsible intentionally. And perhaps we might have to afford presidents leeway in order to stay out of the terribly embarrassing and irreconcilable situations in which you would otherwise have to arrest the president for doing the job of president. What the understanding that we've had about what to do with presidential mistakes about intelligence has, I would venture to say, to this point, been about careful and considered presidential thought about sharing information that perhaps goes a little bit too far, and the president is able to say, perhaps in hindsight I should not have done it this way or that way, but I definitely made a strategic decision about sharing some of this information, and I should not have gone as far as I did, perhaps. I regret doing that, but what I was doing was exercising my right to overrule the bureaucracy that I created on my own authority and their ability to make decisions about this stuff for a real reason. What was not supposed to be there was, if you get drunk and walk around in Washington, D.C. and yell out the names of undercover operatives, that's not really supposed to have been what we covered. That wasn't a considered strategic decision. It wasn't even a mistake of going too far with a considered strategic decision. It's essentially, this is turned into cover your ass material. And like I said, it's been used as cover your ass material in the past. Both, let's see, I don't know. My recent memory of things like this, clearly George W. Bush and all sorts of situations. The Scooter Libby, identification of Valerie Plame was sort of retroactively justified this way. Well, the president can make decisions about what he wants. You know, he can insta-declassify, as Marcy Wheeler liked to call it, this kind of information, the identity of CIA operatives like Valerie Plame. Then, of course, the question became, is it okay for the vice president to do that by authority of the president or what have you? And so we got into that gray area. We weren't sure whether anything illegal had happened with revealing the name of Valerie Plame. Here, there was, and I guess, I know that Barack Obama at some points, plural, during his presidency, likewise went further maybe than even he intended to go, and there was a lot of criticism about it, and Democrats absolutely did rise to his defense in telling Republican attackers, look, even if you're right that he should not have revealed this to someone or in some certain way, the fact is he's allowed to do it because he's president. Yes, okay, and I still see a difference as between the way that was done and the way this was done. Whereas Barack Obama, in speaking, either trying to explain sensitive operations publicly to the American people or privately to allies or people within the government, whether they were allies or not, he may have gone too far, but he was trying to make a strategic point here. Here, I think the reporting will tell you it's just about Trump trying to look like a grown-up and an insider to the Russians, trying to drink the seniors under the table. There's no strategic advantage here, and I guess the problem with a thing like this, you'll never end up getting to a criminal charge. The authority is just too broad, and the statutes are not going to entrap him on this one. You're not going to get him on a criminal charge here. It's just too broad, this authority, and it's been too often used to cover up mistakes, essentially. So it's not like we're going to get to that, but there's definitely a difference in the qualitative. There's definitely a qualitative difference in the reason that the information was revealed, the way in which the information was revealed. There was never at any point, and it may just be that Trump is incapable of weighing these sorts of things strategically, so that really none of this should apply to him at all. He should never have the ability to reveal information because he just doesn't have the capacity to analyze like this. But we didn't, in writing the law ahead of time, anticipate having such an intellectually bankrupt president, I guess. So it seems we may be stuck with this one. But again, though he has broad authority to declassify government secrets, it should be pointed out that this also really applies to American secrets. And although the fact that we knew it made it sort of an American secret, this was developed by another country. So putting aside for just a moment the question of whether or not Trump broke the law, what he broke here was the trust of our allies, which is supposedly an important thing if you're trying to work internationally to fight a stateless actor and a terrorist group like ISIS. Now nobody will share any information with us. That's one huge problem. The other, as I said, is that maybe you didn't break the law, but you broke the trust. You say things like, I had the absolute right to share this information. And that you didn't. That you did not. You had the absolute right to declassify the information, which of course would have the same effect, yes. What you didn't have was the right to share the information. That right belonged to the people who developed it. And by the way, as it turns out, at least all the reporting this morning is, and I have yet to see all of the connective tissue of this reporting, but the president has now on his schedule, in about 5 minutes, a phone call scheduled with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah II, I think, of Jordan, and it was widely regarded last night as a dead giveaway that what that meant was he was calling the King of Jordan to apologize because it was Jordanian intelligence and Jordanian intelligence assets who were compromised and would likely be dead as a result of all of this. And he was calling, I guess everybody figured he was calling to apologize. Obviously, he never apologizes for anything, so who knows why he's calling. He's calling to tell King Abdullah II how right he was to tell the Russians, and by the way, did you know how many electoral votes I got? I don't know what they're going to talk about. But apparently that's the case. So the supposition is that this was Jordanian information. They developed it. Their assets were on the line. They will likely be the ones getting killed in all this. They did the work in developing this information. It was up to them to decide who it should be shared with. The president under American law had the absolute right to declassify the information. What he didn't have was any sort of right to share Jordanian information, Jordanian intelligence with the Russians after they specifically asked that he not do that. He has no right to that. And by the way, if you're really worried about whether or not the president broke the law, our American law is too upside down and backwards to capture him in this one, but I guess there's some significant possibility that the president broke Jordanian law if they are the ones who developed this information. If not, I'm sure it's entirely possible that he broke the law of the country from which these operatives did, in fact, hail. I doubt very much whether there's an exception for the president of the United States. No doubt their chief executive has the authority to declassify the information and decide who it will be shared with, but I doubt very much whether they grant that authority to to any foreigners, or certainly not just any foreigners, but probably not also with the president of the United States or any other major allies for that matter. You wouldn't put that in there, and you wouldn't need it in the law because, in the end, Jordanian law has no particular authority over the president of the United States either. Maybe we can arrest him and extradite him to Jordan on behalf of the Jordanian authorities if they ask. But, obviously, in most cases we wouldn't be doing something like this. However, I guess if the president is left entirely without allies and no one can stand the headache anymore, and we can't get it together to impeach him or even pull a 25th Amendment removal, I guess we could always just say, what could we do? It was a matter for the law enforcement authorities. If we were going to hand the government, at least temporarily, over to Mike Pence for whatever good it does us, in the face of the removal of Donald Trump, you might as well throw him in cuffs and send him to Jordan. Let them deal with it. Here you go. That would be pretty. That's a pretty neat ending to all this, actually. I'll suggest it. But yeah, all right. Those of you who are not content to drop the question of whether or not he broke the law, he probably broke the law in Jordan. They just don't know what to do about it. Well, we'll never get jurisdiction over the guy, so forget about it. Donald, though, if you're thinking about that as a real possibility, if that worries you, you might try the embassy of Ecuador. They might be able to help you out. Anyway, back to the article from which this all springs. White House officials involved in the meeting said Trump discussed only shared concerns about terrorism, but of course that turned out to be wrong. The president and the foreign minister reviewed common threats from terrorist organizations to include threats to aviation, said H.R. McMaster, the national security advisor who participated in the meeting. At no time were any intelligence sources or methods discussed, and no military operations were disclosed that were not already known publicly, and that appears not even to be operative this morning any longer. McMaster reiterated his statement in a subsequent appearance at the White House on Monday and described the Washington Post story as false, but did not take any questions. I think he's going to be back in front of the press today. In their statements, White House officials emphasized that Trump had not discussed specific intelligence sources and methods, rather than addressing whether he had disclosed information drawn from sensitive sources, which is what was alleged. The CIA declined to comment. The NSA did not respond to requests for comment. But officials expressed concerns about Trump's handling of sensitive information, as well as his grasp of the potential consequences. Exposure of an intelligence stream that had provided critical insight into the Islamic State, they said, could hinder the United States and its allies' ability to detect future threats. What that means, bottom line, is the next ISIS murder is on Donald J. Trump. Period. And by the way, now, I guess, if we're really talking about the exposure of some concrete intelligence asset, someone who has infiltrated ISIS on behalf of the Jordanian government, who's now exposed. Think about not only what kind of intelligence we now lose out on, think about what can come of this. If it's really a discrete name, a person, somebody who's been now captured by ISIS, whether or not they actually even know the name. Here's what think about what can happen. What can ISIS do with this as a propaganda weapon? We could end up finding ourselves by the end of the day, who knows when, getting another one of those outrageous ISIS murder videos. If they just take anybody, capture somebody off the street. They're vicious enough to do this. Nobody doubts that. Capture somebody off the street, put a bag on his head. Never take the bag off of his head, right? Could be a total fake. Never take the bag off his head so that the Jordanian intelligence authorities can't verify whether or not this is the guy. And if they cut his head off on camera and say, this is the intelligence operative that it was sent to infiltrate ISIS from Jordan, I suppose we would all be suspicious if they really left the bag on the guy's head. So, I mean, who knows? But if they know who he is, then they could very easily just capture him and kill him on camera with no bag over his head. But, yeah, I mean, imagine they decapitate another person on camera and hold the head up and say, we didn't know this guy was a spy. We didn't know this guy had infiltrated ISIS. Who knows what kind of damage he could have done to us. But Donald J. Trump, blabbermouth in chief, gave him away to the Russians, and the Russians immediately stabbed him in the back because he's a moron and he doesn't understand anything about how anything in the world works. Anywhere. Ever. And now, this hero of yours is dead. His head is in my hands, and Donald J. Trump might just as well as cut off his head himself. The blood's on your hand. You did it, Donald Trump. This guy's dead. And circulate that. How does that play in the United States? I mean, obviously, there are certainly some people who say, yay, he made America great again, somehow. Or, that they would likely justify it by saying, this is such an outrage. Now we need to go to war. We should nuke ISIS, and they'll justify just about anything in their minds. And the rest of us will say, this president, he's got to go. This is enough. He's now killing people who were working to save our lives. And he doesn't know. He doesn't understand. He doesn't care. He's going to do it again. Who knows? The crazy part is, like I said, they could kill just about anybody. I mean, they likely will kill just about anybody. They could do it to just about anybody. And here's the deal. Bag on their head, no bag on their head. It is the guy. It isn't the guy. We now have to talk about the beheading video, and we have to go to the source of the intelligence and identify who that is and acknowledge. In order to deny that that's the guy, I don't know who that was. It's a big fake thing. They're propagandists. They didn't capture that guy. That wasn't him. That wasn't the person I gave away. We have to acknowledge that he gave somebody away. We have to acknowledge where the information came from. We have to go on, get the Jordanians to go on record to say that's not the guy. Then we all have to decide whether we believe the Jordanians are telling the truth or just covering their tracks the best they can in all this. Then we have to decide whether or not we believe the American sources on this. We will never know. If the ISIS wackos are crazy enough to do something like this, we're going to be dealing with this for a long time. And we're going to be at war with ourselves, which is exactly, of course, what they want. And I don't know what to tell you. At this point, there's no point in not fomenting that war against Donald Trump, to be honest. This guy's got to be gotten rid of one way or another. And, only certain ways are legal. So try to stick to those if you could, please. But the guy's having people killed all over the world who are trying to save your family, allegedly, from ISIS terrorism. And by the way, remember the whole, I'm going to have a plan in 30 days to totally destroy ISIS? It's a good thing he didn't come up with one, because he probably would have spilled the beans on it anyway. But this is it. This is the big plan. 21 rounds of golf and getting people who infiltrate ISIS killed so that the Russians think I'm cool. There's more to the story. It's all kinds of shocking, said a former U.S. official, senior U.S. official, who is close to the current administration officials. Distance yourself if you can, whoever you are. Trump seems to be very reckless and doesn't grasp the gravity of the things he's dealing with because he's a dummy. especially when it comes to intelligence and national security. Especially. Now here, of course, he's like, I'll be so good at the military, your head'll spin. I'm going to be great. Crooked Hillary Clinton. Of course, there's no end to the writing. You can't turn around today and not be hit in the face with somebody reminding you, yes, the whole election supposedly turned on Hillary Clinton's supposed, alleged inability to protect classified information. Here's Donald Trump literally killing intelligence assets because he can't, falling over his own feet, he can't reveal secrets to the Russians fast enough. Oh my God. So yeah, especially when it comes to intelligence and national security, that is his biggest weakness, and it shows. And it's all clouded, this official continues, it's all clouded because of this problem he has with Russia. That only makes it worse. It's not even because he has this problem with Russia that he has this problem with intelligence. It's just he was going to have this problem understanding the gravity of intelligence information anyway. On top of this, he has no idea how to deal with the Russians. He has no idea how they regard him. So the mistakes that he was going to make with intelligence, he will make with Russians, which is worse than anything I could think of. They're out to destabilize the Western-dominated world order, essentially. That's the key interest for Russia and has been since forever. And Trump doesn't get that, doesn't understand that, doesn't believe it's true, thinks they're our friends, and also has no idea what to do with national security information. A mortal combination. How will we even say a deadly combination, certainly, but just a mistake from which we can't recover with him in the presidency. Period. In his meeting with Lavrov, Trump seemed to be boasting about his inside knowledge of a looming threat. I get great intel. I have people brief me on great intel every day, the president said, according to an official with knowledge of the exchange. I think that's the part that kills me the most. I really do. This is the part that hurts the most, listening to an idiot president basically preface this whole conversation with, I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't be telling you this. I just said this yesterday. That's right. When the story was, the big embarrassment was our president is constantly being fooled by actual fake news, by internet hoaxes and fake Time magazine news covers that people are slipping onto his desk. And by the way, just to illustrate how bad the problem is with intelligence and national security, etc., the issue that had everybody rolling their eyes and holding their stomachs yesterday was that he got a fake Time magazine cover about the climate change issue, slipped onto his desk. And we all know that he's an idiot and he doesn't understand that issue. But again, who puts that on his desk? It's not his, EPA director. It's not his environmental science advisors or deniers, as the case may be. It's his national security apparatus, his deputy national security advisor puts that on his desk because, I don't know, for some reason he considers that to be his top or one of his top national security issues. Maybe because he doesn't understand intelligence, so I'll mix it all up. I mean, it does have a national security component, to be sure, if you think about it correctly, but there's no chance he's thinking about it correctly. But his own national security advisors are the ones slipping him hoax information about this. Again, the weakness, the biggest dummies of the collection of dummies he has are in the national security area, and that's hugely, hugely disturbing. Anyway, we were all embarrassed about that yesterday, and now here and that led me to use that line yesterday to remind you of that. And I'll remind you of it again today. I think that you'll find if you really search transcripts, like especially raw transcripts of interviews, that I probably shouldn't be telling you this, is one of the top 10, maybe a little more, maybe not top 10, top 12, top 15, top 20, I don't know. One of the recurring verbal crutches on which this president leans all the time. Because it's a huge line, because he knows he knows he can't control himself to some extent. I just don't know if he knows exactly how out of control he really is, but he's constantly, telling people this. Sometimes he really knows that he probably shouldn't be telling people this. Other times it's a rhetorical trick. It's something that he doesn't mind, when it's about business. I mean, he used to tell this to reporters all the time when he would give them interviews or leak information to them on the phone about things, simple things about his business. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm going to make a great deal about a casino in Atlantic City so soon. It's going to be so big, your head will spin. Another of his verbal crutches. And now that he's in the business of presidenting, he's using the same crutch. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. Only here, you really shouldn't be telling people that. That's one of the big problems. And so it's a dead giveaway. So we're back at the same juncture again with I probably shouldn't be telling you this, and you really shouldn't. And then he goes on with the bragging. I get great intel. They get great intel. They're Russia. I mean, who else is developing intelligence on the level of, I don't know. Maybe they're doing it in crappy ways. It used to be. Maybe as Soviets, it used to be the case. But I think they're getting pretty good intelligence. And look at this guy. Again, who's going to drink the seniors under the table. The guy he's playing to, in front of him are Lavrov and Kislyak, and who knows what their connections are. Kislyak, widely, though, regarded to be the chief spy of the Russians inside the United States. So, he knows a bit about intelligence and what kind of intelligence they're getting. I get great intel. Well, I'm the chief spy in your country. And I work for a former KGB agent, Vladimir Putin. I think he gets great intel, too. You can't drink these two under the table, especially not with vodka shots, you dummy. That's, puked on his shoes in front of everybody. And now he's letting everybody know, I want you to know, everybody, I have the absolute right, okay? Absolute right. I just want you to understand this. I have the absolute right to vomit on my own shoes. Don't tell me I can't. I am president of the United States. It's not illegal if the president vomits on his own shoes. And in fact, I can vomit on your shoes. And don't think I won't try it either. You stay around here long enough, I will eventually vomit on your shoes and tell you it's Obama's fault. I will tell you it's Obama's vomit right to your face. What are you going to do about it, okay? Nothing, right? That's exactly what, I just want you to understand that. I think everybody should be clear on that. I can vomit on your shoes, tell you it's Obama, and I don't know. You should probably eat it when I'm done, too. Plus, I'll have another scoop of ice cream. So, that's where we stand with this idiot. Trump went on to discuss aspects of the threat that the United States learned only through the espionage capabilities of a key partner. He did not reveal the specific intelligence gathering method. Spying, going and looking, was the actual method. But he described how the Islamic State was pursuing elements of a specific plot and how much harm such an attack could cause under varying circumstances. It'd be like one of the top 10, maybe the most destructive terrorist attack ever. But I stopped it, okay? The number one possibility of terrorism, I stopped it myself by listening to people who did the work of infiltrating ISIS. Now, I know it. Now you know it. And that guy is dead. And that's all there is to it. So, big deal. All he did was tell them pretty much everything they needed to know in order to figure out the sources and methods for themselves. Most alarmingly, officials said, Trump revealed the city in the Islamic State's territory where the U.S. intelligence partner detected the threat. So, of course, now ISIS will have, although I guess, have we seen it reported anywhere? I don't know that Russia necessarily has in its interest helping ISIS find this person, although, I don't know. I guess we have to caution ourselves that it's probably supposition. We're listening to cable TV intelligence experts. So how good are they? So it may not be the case that this person is dead yet, but, pretty damn soon. And now they have the city. And so, how long will it take before that's out? And ISIS says, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. The guy who showed up here about 6 months ago. I've always been a little bit suspicious of him. But who else could it be here in the city of XYZ? Thanks very much. The Post, though, is withholding most plot details, including the name of the city, at the urging of officials who warned that revealing them would jeopardize important intelligence capabilities. Those officials didn't bother warning the president about that, but they're warning the Washington Post. Everyone knows this stream is very sensitive, and the idea of sharing it at this level of granularity with the Russians is troubling, said a former senior U.S. counterterrorism official who also worked closely with members of the Trump National Security Team. For what reason, I don't know. He and others spoke on a condition of anonymity, citing the sensitivity of the subject. But we should probably just tell everybody what their names are, too. Go ahead, Trump. Identify them as well. The identification of the location was seen as particularly problematic, officials said, because Russia could use that detail to help identify the U.S. ally or intelligence capability involved. Officials said the capability could be useful for other purposes, possibly providing intelligence on Russia's presence in Syria. Moscow would be keenly interested in identifying that source and perhaps disrupting it. And now we have our reason. And no, did the president actually give the guy's name and were there sources and methods? No. But as it says here, all this kind of granularity allowed the Russians to figure it out. It's a big mystery. I tell you what, Sergey, I'm having a sandwich. I'm not going to tell you what kind of sandwich, but it involves peanut butter and a, let's say, gelatinous substance. I'll leave it to you to figure out what else I put on the sandwich, along with the peanut butter. But it's delicious. It's a combination people love the world around. Probably the number one sandwich in all of America. But I did not give away, right? What's on the sandwich, everybody? It's not Elvis's peanut butter and banana sandwich. What else could it be? It's not just peanut butter either. It's peanut butter and something. We heard you the first time. We figured it out already. Shut up. Russia and the United States both regard the Islamic State as an enemy. That's true. And share limited information about terrorist threats. But the two nations have competing agendas in Syria. Hello, chocolate cake. Where Moscow has deployed military assets and personnel to support President Bashar al-Assad. And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has deployed military assets to blow up the assets that Russia has given to Syria. But whatever. Russia could identify our sources and techniques, the senior U.S. official said. That's the bottom line. A former intelligence official who handled high-level intelligence on Russia said that given the clues Trump provided, I don't think that it would be that hard for Russian spy services to figure this out. At a more fundamental level, the information wasn't the United States' to provide to others. Under the rules of espionage, and I guess there are some, governments and even individual agencies are given significant control over whether and how the information they gather is disseminated, even after it has been shared. Violating that practice undercuts trust considered essential to sharing secrets. That's just basic common sense. The officials declined to identify the ally, but said it has previously voiced frustration with Washington's inability to safeguard sensitive information related to Iraq and Syria. If that partner learned we'd given this to Russia without their knowledge or asking first, that is a blow to the relationship, the U.S. official said. Trump also described measures that the United States has taken or is contemplating to counter the threat. We're taking away all the laptops, including military operations in Iraq and Syria, as well as other steps to tighten security, officials said. The officials would not discuss details of those measures, but the Department of Homeland Security recently disclosed that it is considering banning laptops and other large electronic devices from carry-on bags on flights between Europe and the United States. The United States and Britain imposed a similar ban in March, affecting travelers passing through the airports in 10 Muslim-majority countries. Trump cast the countermeasures in wistful terms. Can you believe the world we live in today? He said, according to one official. Isn't it crazy? It certainly is. Lavrov and Kislyak, I guess that must be when they laughed, were also accompanied by aides, who were spies. I'll add. A Russian photographer took photos of part of the session that were released by the Russian state-owned TASS news agency. No U.S. news organizations, were allowed to attend any part of the meeting. That would have been damn interesting, too. You know what? You know what it has cost us, by the way? Probably was in the back of my mind, but it just occurred to me. If the United States had been represented by the press there, I mean, I don't know. There were still holdouts, and they no doubt have not changed their minds at all. There were holdouts, of course, Trump fans who said, what's the difference? The United States media wasn't there. They're liars anyway. The Russian media was there. Now you have pictures. The pictures are out. They shared them. They're not hiding anything. You have all the information you wanted to have about what went on in there. We don't, of course. But what we don't have is a record of what went on in this conversation. The Russians aren't going to tell us, because what's their interest in telling us? They will, you know what? They might even tell us something, but I doubt very much whether it would be the truth. They will tell us whatever will sow the most discord in the United States, because that's what they're interested in. And probably that would be, oh yeah, nothing. He didn't say anything dangerous in there. And they'll give away the information to their allies, and they'll take care of business their own way. And in the meantime, they'll deny everything, and Trump fans in America will say, see, they didn't say anything. And the rest of us will say, you're trusting Russia for this? And although, again, if the Russians said, yes, he spilled the beans on everything, and I think they have actually said something like this, and if we now say, see, I told you he spilled the beans, then Trump fans will say, you're listening to Russia on this? You said you don't trust Russia. This is a very difficult situation. Anything can happen in this one, which is why I think we're going to end up with one of those ISIS murder videos. We're all going to end up doubting. It doesn't matter who they kill in there. They'll just say it's the guy, and then we'll all have doubts about who denies what. But what we don't have now is a record of what went on in the room from a member of the American press. The people who know what went on in the room are Russian spies, Russian spy agency employed photographers, and Trump staffers, and Trump, of course. Trump may have no idea what went on in the room at all, even though he was there and the one speaking, but Trump advisors who were also in the room, who have every reason to cover up what was being said, some of whom, though, are leaking for whatever reason, but we would have had this information, we should have had this information that afternoon. Man, so that's one of the big dangers. Like, what's the difference whether the American press is there? Well, if the American press is there, then we know our president is an idiot and a traitor a lot faster. But some possibility exists that if the American press had been there on hand, and Donald Trump knew it, to report that, oh my God, Donald Trump just told them hugely, highly classified information. Now, I don't know that the reporters would have known that. But the minute they went to report that would have made it obvious to the CIA and the NSA that, oh my God, or you got to pull down this article. They would have tried to suppress it, but we all would have known right then and there. Now, the CIA and NSA knew right then and there because the aides inside the meeting, they knew something had gone wrong. Their first instinct was to call the CIA and the NSA to try to contain it. And they probably said, thank God we didn't have the American press here, because that would have been a nightmare. Then we would never have been able to suppress this information, and we may not be able to contain it at this point anyway. But it would definitely be out if the press had been there. On the other hand, consider this, please, people, my huge audience inside the White House now. Consider this. Had the American press been there, I think that would have been a signal to Trump. Even Trump understands this. Trump would never have told them this information if he knew the American press was there to report that he had just turned traitor and given away highly classified secrets to the Russian spies that he had just invited into his office at Vladimir Putin's request. So, would that have helped things? It might have, but now that raises one final possibility. One last possibility which we now have to consider. Everyone wanted to consider it anyway, but maybe we've built a better case for it now. Clearly, the decision to exclude the American press was premeditated. Whether or not he was in his right mind, whether or not Trump made the decision, whoever did it, whoever decided no American press, the idea that they did that without foreknowledge or understanding that this information was going to be shared with the Russians, it is possible. It is possible that somebody who just hates the American press like the president does, or hates the American press because the president does, thought they were doing the president a favor by excluding the American press, not because he was going to share any particular information, but because it would give the president and the administration and their supporters the opportunity to mock the American press and say, he hates you, you're so untrustworthy and so stupid, and you do such a bad job, and you're so full of fake news that we excluded you from this, and we included the Russians. That's how little we think of you. That may have been it, but another possibility, depending on who made the decision and how, and I'd love to know, and we ought to have an inquiry into it, and who knows whether we'll ever get to it, but I would love to know who made that decision and why, in light of the fact that the president says that he intentionally invited them there openly with the intent of sharing this information with them. Did he share with anybody that he meant to share this information? Did he tell his staff, I'm going to tell them this? I don't think so. They probably would have put a stop to it. But what ended up happening is there was a decision made. Don't put any of the people in there who might otherwise be able to prevent the president from mouthing off to the Russians. And then that happened. And then that happened. They were not in there, and he blabbed. And one thing led to another. And the question is, was it just a series of idiotic coincidences that led to it? Or did the president and his staff, whether working together in collusion on a common plan or working as wheel and spoke in a conspiracy like this, and RICO people will recognize the wheel and spoke theory. And it's even illustrated right here in the Washington Post story, which you'll see if you click through it when we include it in the roundup. There's actually a wheel and spoke kind of illustration here. If the wheel and spokes, in part, even not knowing that they were cooperating, instead unknowingly collaborated on a plan to put the president of the United States, highly classified information about ISIS, code word level information, and we'll get to that in a minute too, in the room with the chief Russian spy in America, and leave out the monitors of American press so that they weren't there as a visual reminder to the president. Mind your tongue, you idiot. Do we have a conspiracy there that finally works? And in a sense, I mean like RICO-style conspiracy. People working together without even necessarily having the knowledge of what parts they're playing in this to execute a scheme to undermine American authority in the world, endanger allied intelligence assets around the world, and essentially engage in espionage for the Russians. I don't know, but I'd love to lay out that case. Let's say in the United States House of Representatives as part of articles of impeachment. Get it? You with me on that? Senior White House officials appeared to recognize immediately, quickly, they say, that Trump had overstepped and moved to contain the potential fallout. Thomas P. Bossert, Assistant to the President for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism, have not heard that name called before, placed calls to the directors of the CIA and the NSA, the services most directly involved in the intelligence sharing arrangement with this partner. Interesting, though. Thomas P. Bossert, we haven't heard his name called. And he's the adult in the room, as it turns out. That we never hear the names of the people who are responsible enough to realize, oh my God, this president is bananas and we have to do something. Those names we never hear. One of Bossert's subordinates also called for the problematic portion of Trump's discussion to be stricken from internal memos and for the full transcript to be limited to a small circle of recipients, efforts to prevent sensitive details from being disseminated further or leaked, which explains why we got a much more detailed readout of the information from the Russians than we did from the Americans. There were no American press people in the room. We had to rely on the White House. The White House got to give us their official version, the official history of this meeting from the American perspective. The fuller history came from the Russian side, but guess what wasn't included? The report that he had given us all kinds of insane levels of code word level intelligence. That they left out until they could do something with it. They're smarter than we are. But that's not hard. We sent Donald Trump. So what are you going to do? Bowl of Jell-O is a better bet. You don't need to have a smart ambassador. White House officials defended Trump. This story is false, said Dina Powell. That's Ivanka's good friend who was sent out there to do the lying this time. And as you know from the last couple of weeks, whoever gets sent out to do the lying ahead of Trump's confessionals ends up getting thrown under the bus. So Dina Powell, your turn. She's the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategy. The president only discussed the common threats that both countries faced. But officials could not explain why staff members nevertheless felt it necessary to alert the CIA and NSA. Gee whiz. Don't know why that might be. Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee said he would rather comment on the revelations in the Post story after, quote, I know a little bit more about it, unquote, but added, obviously they are in a downward spiral right now and have got to figure out a way to come to grips with all that's happening. And the shame of it is, there's a really good national security team in place. No, there isn't. There's a really terrible national security team in place. A really good national security team in place does not let this happen and can contain things. They did let it happen and can't contain this. So, okay, that's just puffery. That's the sort of thing that a Republican senator is likely to say. Obviously, they are in a downward spiral. And now, the next part, that they've got to figure out a way to come to grips with all that's happening. They should. But if they don't, and it's pretty clear that they can't at this point, there is a way to come to grips with all that's happening. That part, though, is actually in your hands. Not at the moment, but in the moment it's in the hands of the House of Representatives. Impeach the man, remove him from office, whatever you want to do, 25th Amendment, impeachment, you pick it. That's how you contain the damage. Then the Senate agrees to do that thing. Convict him, remove him, do whatever you do. Get on it. Don't just stand there saying they really have to get a handle on things. They don't have a handle on things. Look what they just did. They put the Russian ambassador and the chief spy and the Russian foreign minister in the room with more Russian spies calling themselves TASS news agency, and you left all the minders who could do something out of there. Yes, there were minders in there who realized that information was being given out, but did any of them who called the CIA and NSA immediately afterwards at any point ever step up and say, Mr. President, I'm sorry to embarrass you this way, but to hold on just a moment. I mean, we should be frantically like hitting the Diet Coke button. I need Cokes in here, please. Hey, Tom, what are you doing? I'm trying to talk to my Russian friends here. I know, Mr. President, I have to vomit. Come with me to the bathroom. Anything. Whatever it takes to interrupt that conversation. But no, they stood there like getting flush in the face and sweating and saying, I'm going to have to call the NSA after this. And not stepping up and saying, hold it. Just a moment. I'm sorry. or just go whisper in his ear like, the country is under attack, like they did with George W. Bush, right? I mean, that froze him in his tracks. You could probably freeze Trump in his tracks. Go whisper in his ear as he's saying, I get the best intel. I get intel all the time. Let me tell you some of the great intel I got. You're not going to believe this. This is going to blow your mind, okay? Guys, I heard from Jordan. And you just, at that point, step up and whisper in his ear. All they have to see is you whispering in his ear. And the thing you can say is, Mr. President, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please just pretend right now that I'm whispering awesome intelligence into your ear. I want you to say this. Repeat after me. Guys, I'm hearing some really awesome intelligence right now. I'm hearing some really awesome intelligence right now. And, it's really high class stuff. I don't know, what would the president, it's really high class stuff. It's tremendous. You're going to love it. And, okay, now I need you to just nod along and furrow your brow. Push your hair back from your eyebrows and let them see your brow furrow. Yeah, all right, purse your lips. Fine. That's the move you've got. And nod along. Now listen to me. This part I do not want you to repeat after me. This part I did not want you to repeat after me. Now, don't say it. Don't say, you get the joke. Okay, stop talking right now. Hold your lips together. Okay, I'll hold your lips. What you're telling the Russians right now is so highly classified, we can't allow you to go forward. But I want you to nod your head, make it look like you're getting awesome intelligence, and I'll give you another story that you're going to finish with, and then excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. I need to tell you something. The country is being attacked right now. And it's your chance to do something serious about this. We're going to have to call out the bombers. I need you in the other room to come push the button. Are you okay? Oh, nod if you hear me. Yes, I hear you. Oh, shouldn't let go of his lips. Tell them you need to go to the bathroom. Anything you could do to just interrupt that. But instead, I understand that people freeze in place, that they can't believe what's happening. But they should have done something different. You'd think that they're in place to do that different thing, but apparently they're not. All right, so where were we with this article? We're almost done here. Corker also said, the chaos that is being created by the lack of discipline is creating an environment that I think makes... Pause. It creates a worrisome environment. He wouldn't even say what it makes is it makes it more likely that people who are working to contain ISIS are going to be killed, and it makes it more likely that you and I are going to be killed by ISIS or something. And it's only going to freak people out, but eventually they'll launch an attack. Also, that's another thing they can do besides the video, right? If anything blows up anywhere, or somebody creates a disturbance or shoots somebody somewhere, they could just pull the cheapest, dumbest, most meaningless stunt anywhere, claim it's ISIS, or just wait, somebody else will do it, and they just claim that it's ISIS. And then if they announce, we did it because your moron president did this, people are going to have to ponder whether or not that's the truth. And I think that's what Corker is getting at here. The chaos that's being created by the lack of discipline is creating an environment that I think makes what? Makes us less safe. That's how that phrase ends. But he stopped himself. Trump has repeatedly gone off script in dealing with high-ranking foreign officials, most notably in his contentious introductory conversation with the Australian Prime Minister earlier this year. He also has faced criticism with everybody. He goes off script with everybody. Luciano Pavarotti was in the script with the Italian Prime Minister. Are you kidding me? He also faced criticism for seemingly lax attention to security at his Florida retreat, Mar-a-Lago, where he appeared to field preliminary reports of a North Korea missile launch in full view of casual diners, which was part of the plan. This is what the benefits of being a member here. You get to see this stuff. U.S. officials said that the National Security Council continues to prepare multi-page briefings for Trump to guide him through conversations with foreign leaders, but that he has insisted that the guidance be distilled to a single page of bullet points and often ignores those. Write it on the ice cream. That's where it belongs. You can write it in icing on a cake that he can understand. Do not give secrets to the Russians. Oh, cool. Can I have a slice with the Russian flag on it? Thank you. He seems to get in the room or on the phone and just goes with it. And that has big downsides, said a second former official. Does he understand what's classified and what's not? That's what worries me. He does not, but he does understand that you've told him that it doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference in the world because the law says I have the absolute right to share this information. And so, you know what is a lot easier than trying to remember what's classified and what's not? Is not giving a crap ever because I know I can't get in trouble. That's a beautiful law. That's the kind of law I really like. One page, I'm sure. And it says somewhere on that page, the president can say whatever he wants to say. That's a beautiful law. Well done. Perfect. That's finally, in all the, I've looked at stacks of books of the law this high, like even higher than that. And not any place can I find a law as beautiful and as simply stated as that. Why don't we have all our laws that way? That's what I want to know. In fact, for every law restricting the president, we should have to repeal 2 laws already existing that restrict the president. I am overregulated. That's the problem. Lavrov's reaction to the Trump disclosures was muted, officials said, calling for the United States to work more closely with Moscow on fighting terrorism. They're not going to comment on this. Kislyak has figured prominently in damaging stories about the Trump administration's ties to Russia. Trump's first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, was forced to resign just 24 days into the job over his contacts with Kislyak and his misleading statements about them. Of course, now here we are 115 days into the job, and we have a story about Donald Trump's contacts with Kislyak and his misleading statements about them. Attorney General Jeff Sessions was forced to recuse himself, not that it mattered, from matters related to the FBI's Russia investigation after it was revealed that he had met and spoke with Kislyak, despite denying any contact with Russian officials during his confirmation hearing. That, of course, perjury, and he has stopped recusing himself anyway because he is leading the search for a new FBI director, so that's out the window. I'm sure Kislyak was able to fire off a good cable back to the Kremlin with all the details he gleaned from Trump, said the former U.S. official who handled intelligence on Russia. The White House readout of the meeting with Lavrov and Kislyak made no mention of the discussion of the terrorist threat, and I don't even think it made any mention of Kislyak's presence there, by the way. I wonder, I should take a look. It's linked. Trump emphasized the need to work together and to end the conflict in Syria, the summary said. The president also raised Ukraine and emphasized his desire to build a better relationship between the United States and Russia. That's the end of the article. What's the readout of... All right, yeah, here's the whole readout. President Donald J. Trump met today with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov of Russia, following on the visit of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who we will call Rex everything, of course, to Moscow last month. President Trump emphasized the need to work together to end conflict in Syria, in particular, underscoring the need for Russia to rein in the Assad regime, Iran, and Iranian proxies. The president raised Ukraine, expressed his administration's commitment to remain engaged in resolving the conflict, and stressed Russia's responsibility to fully implement the Minsk agreements. He also raised the possibility of broader cooperation on resolving conflicts in the Middle East and elsewhere. By the way, Jordan, they did this great thing. Did I tell you? The president further emphasized his desire to build a better relationship between the United States and Russia, period. End of release. Not a mention of Kislyak anywhere. That's your transparent, open meeting readout. Now we find out what's missing from that. Kislyak was there, and I told them that we got information from the Jordanians about this thing, and it's code word level information, and they're probably going to kill everybody now. That's all gone from there. What do you got there? Justice wondering if TASS had a live feed to Putin's office to make the passing of secret intel more efficient. That would have been a great idea. I don't want to get any further into what TASS was doing in there. We've already discussed that. I know I have somewhere another piece of information. Here we are. The Atlantic. The Atlantic is killing it today, by the way. And not just about this. There's another fantastic piece out there. Has nothing to do with any of this stuff. Maybe we'll share that on Friday and some more thoughts on that. But here we go. Our first thing I saved from the Atlantic today. Only one we're going to discuss today. Again, illustrated by that ridiculous picture of Trump with his tie down over the fly of his pants, laughing with these two. The two of them looking at each other. You know, obviously, I can't believe this idiot just told us this. I don't know if he's told them that stuff yet. Trump looking like a moron. Here's the piece. How bad is disclosing code word information? What does that mean? I don't know. It sounds bad. It sounds cool, really, which is why Trump did it. But if you're known as someone who cannot keep a secret, the world's secret keepers are not going to tell you much, is the subheader to this piece, written by Amy Zegart, Z-E-G-A-R-T, in The Atlantic. Yesterday, the Washington Post dropped the bombshell, and it was like a Moab-sized bombshell, that President Trump had revealed classified information about the Islamic State to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak when the three of them met at the White House last week. There were more people than that in the meeting. Of course, we didn't get all of their names. We had some staffers for Trump who were ineffectual, and we had a couple other spies dressed as photographers. But okay, that's beside the point. You know a story is big when it gets as many concurrent visitors as the story about the infamous Access Hollywood video. I told you about that. Now I have a source for that. Right, great. Thank you, Amy. Okay. There was no hiding near bushes in the dark this time, Sean Spicer, to walk back the damage. Deputy National Security Advisor Dina Powell declared the story false, and the administration also called out the big guns, with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster dutifully rushing into the breach to discuss the breach, using so carefully worded statements about how the president did not reveal, quote, sources or methods, or any, quote, military operations, unquote, that were not already known publicly. By the way, also read elsewhere yesterday that Rex Tillerson's statement was not discussed at all beforehand anywhere in the State Department. He consulted with nobody. Not a surprise given how he works, but it is a surprise that he works that way. I mean, a surprise in the sense of like, oh my God, why don't we have a government kind of thing? Now, we already knew about it. It's one of those shocking things that just makes you, throw up in your own mouth every morning when you wake up and realize I wasn't dreaming. So, just how bad is this damage? On a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm just ballparking here, it's about 1 billion. That's what she says. The story, which has since been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Reuters, BuzzFeed, and CNN, mind you, this is all after Dina Powell said, it's false. Don't believe it. It's fake news. Wall Street Journal got it. New York Times confirmed it. Reuters confirmed it. BuzzFeed, CNN. This news notes that the president could have jeopardized a critical source of intelligence on the Islamic State. Not America's source, somebody else's. Presumably from an allied intelligence service who now knows that the American president cannot be trusted with sensitive information. The type of information Trump cavalierly shared fell under a classification known as code word, according to the Post. There are 3 basic levels of classified information. Confidential information is defined as anything that could reasonably be expected to, quote, cause damage to American national security if shared without authorization. Secret information is one step up, considered to have the potential to cause serious damage if revealed. Top secret information is a higher classification level still, comprising anything that could reasonably be expected to cause exceptionally grave damage to U.S. national security if revealed. Code word is apparently beyond top secret. It limits access to classified information to a much narrower pool of people to provide an extra layer of security. Many secrets are super secrets. Harry Truman, as vice president, didn't know about the Manhattan Project. He learned of it only after Franklin Delano Roosevelt died and Truman was sworn in as president. Code word classification is so far off the scale. Even fake spies rarely refer to it in the movies. Technically, the president can declassify anything he wants, so he did not violate any laws, American laws anyway. But as Lawfare notes, and Lawfare was all over this yesterday, and I don't even know we're going to go to them because I think we've made the points better than, not better than they did, like, oh my God, they're terrible, but I think in our own way, they do it in a boring way. They're correct. We do it in an exciting way, incorrect and speculatively. As Lawfare notes, though, she says, if the president tweeted out the nuclear codes, he also wouldn't violate the law, but he would rightly be considered unfit for office. Get it? Did Trump reveal intelligence crown jewels or just boast about the fact that he liked diamonds? According to the Post, he revealed information about a purported ISIS plot involving laptops. It's likely, however, that Tillerson, McMaster, the Post, and the Times are all correct. The president did not reveal sources or methods or military operations, but that doesn't matter much if he gave away information that will enable the Russians to identify the sources or the methods. I used peanut butter and bread and a gelatinous substance made with grapes, maybe. I'm not saying what kind of grapes. I'm not saying where the grapes were grown. I'm just saying grapes. And gelatinous, not jelly. I didn't say grape jelly. I said a gelatinous grape substance. Completely different. But that doesn't matter if he gave away information that'll enable them to basically put the whole damn thing together themselves. It looks like he did, since according to the Post's account, he talked about the content of a specific plot, the potential harm, and the location of the city in the Islamic State's territory where the Allied States Intelligence Service detected it. It was almost everything except the GPS coordinates. The denials by Tillerson and McMaster are a classic case of intelligence super parsing, saying things that are technically and narrowly true but may not be accurate at all. No spin can hide the fact that the breach was deadly serious and reckless in the extreme. Then there's the impact on America's unnamed ally, whom the Post reported was already nervous about sharing such sensitive intelligence with the United States. It is difficult to penetrate the Islamic State, and there is a major risk that this breach will close down a vital source. And just for a moment here, again, let's talk about what we're discussing here is we were alerted to a plot to use a laptop to blow up a flight between Europe and the United States, probably an American carrier, certainly filled with Americans on their way back from Europe. There was going to be another mass terrorist attack, possibly hundreds of Americans killed, in exactly the way we all fear when we think about terrorist attacks. And they discovered this and they told us about it because as much as they didn't trust us, clearly they actually feared exactly this sort of dumb thing happening. But they figured, well, what are we going to do? I know it's Trump, but what are we going to do? Not tell the Americans? They're about to put a bomb on an airliner. There's hundreds of people could get killed. And this could trigger another crazy regional war, worldwide war, something. How do you not tell him? You got to tell him. He might leak it, but we got to tell him. And they tell him. And not only does he leak the information, he leaks it in a way that gets the guy who found the information killed. And so what are you going to do next time, right? We got to tell him we've discovered another bomb plot against an American airliner. Hundreds of innocent people are going to die. We have to do something. I know we're nervous about the guy, but we can't not tell him. Well, you know what? Maybe we really can not tell him because I don't know how many people on our side are going to die if he blabs again. I mean, we've already lost these intelligence assets and who knows how many other people have died as a result. Or maybe we've suffered ISIS attacks. I don't think there's been a great deal of ISIS attacking going on in Jordan to date, but maybe that'll change now. We could be, maybe we don't tell them. And what is the upshot of that? The upshot of that is if the threat is real, an American airliner with hundreds of American innocent people on board blows up over the Atlantic Ocean and everybody on board is killed, even though an ally of ours knew about the plot and could have given us the information to prevent it. They were so worried that even more people would be killed if they told the moron Donald Trump that this was going to happen, that they decided it was better to let that airliner blow up. Somebody, imagine that. Imagine your relative gets killed on a flight from Europe back to the United States or wherever. Large-scale attack, small-scale attack, doesn't matter. You've lost your relative because of an attack that an ally knew about but wouldn't tell us about for fear that Donald Trump would actually kill more people than if they just let this thing happen. Is he your president? What are you going to... I mean, torches, pitchforks... There's no torches left anymore, but they didn't buy any of the pitchforks. Home Depot sells pitchforks, so that's a possibility. Not that they'll let you carry them. They wouldn't let you carry the torches now. That's been ruined too. Anyway... Give it some thought, people. I know in this audience it doesn't make any difference. I don't know. Tell your stupid Trump voting neighbor. I don't know. Get in a fight with them at this point. Might as well go ahead. Just punch him in the face. I now advocate it. I can't help it. But you know what? They're probably punching themselves in the face. So maybe you just put an arm on their shoulder. I'll counsel you. Don't stop. I want to talk to you about what you're doing. Punching yourself in the face. Keep it up. Just we'll talk as it's going on. I'll buy you a beer afterwards. So, this is now a possibility. Thanks a lot. And I guess they could try, I guess in reality, if you're the king of Jordan, now you find this out, you say, I gotta alert the Americans, but we gotta do it in a way that doesn't get to the president, because then more people will die. We're just gonna have to go lower level. Put it in a book. How about that? And drop it off at a library in America. There's no chance the president will read it then. Put it on, put it on MSNBC. Maybe he doesn't, he doesn't watch CNN. Broadcast it on CNN. He'll never find out. He claims he does, and then he will watch CNN and then we'll say, aha, we caught you. It's worth it. All right. So there's the impact on America's unnamed ally. It's an even bigger deal in the big picture, potentially jeopardizing intelligence cooperation with other U.S. allies around the world. Trump has already raised intelligence eyebrows when he turned his Mar-a-Lago dining area into an impromptu situation room after the North Koreans decided to launch a ballistic missile. The president and his aides used the lights on cell phones to illuminate field reports in full view of resort dinner guests snapping photos. And by the way, in full view of the camera lenses of those said cell phones, which even if they didn't press the button to take pictures and transmit them to foreign countries might still just as well have been transmitted there, as we learned, since the flashlight apps apparently are among the most rife with malware, including malware that pipes whatever is in front of the cell phone camera lens directly to Beijing. But never mind all that. If you're known as someone who can't keep a secret, the piece concludes, the world's secret keepers are not going to tell you much. Can you believe the world we live in today? President Trump said, according to one official in the two Sergeys meeting. Isn't it crazy? Yes, Mr. President, it's crazy. It certainly is. What else can I tell you about this? I don't know. Not much. There is one other piece, I guess, that's related that we could share this morning, and I don't even think it's all that long, but just by way of reminder. The Hill has this piece from, is it Mark Hensch is the author's name, Hensch, Dem Senator, lists Trump's past recklessness on classified info. So I thought that would make maybe a good reminder and a good background on all of this stuff. Senator Martin Heinrich of New Mexico on Monday responded to reports that President Trump shared highly classified intelligence with top Russian officials by tweeting a list of his disturbing pattern of recklessness. The tweet storm began shortly after the Washington Post reported, and BuzzFeed, the New York Times, and Reuters confirmed that Trump disclosed highly sensitive anti-ISIS information with diplomats visiting the Oval Office last week. He, in fact, shared it with spies visiting the Oval Office last week, but we're trying to be kind here, I guess, in the Hill. Here's the first of those tweets. Are they all tweets or are they? All right, well, let's take a look. Martin Heinrich's first tweet. President Trump continues to display a disturbing pattern of recklessness. Hashtag classified 101. And with a link to the Washington Post story. Pro tip, don't give the Russians classified information. Also hashtag classified 101, as I guess they all are. We can leave it out from here on in. You can just assume it's in there. Letting TASS into the Oval Office with cameras and electronic equipment was one such slip-up, with a link to a Washington Post story on that. Heinrich cited a February photo which allegedly showed a key to classified information sitting on Trump's desk. Remember that one? The New Mexico senator, who is up for re-election next year, also needled Trump for openly discussing a North Korean missile launch in February near guests at the president's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. So, yes, there was leaving the classified lock bag lying around with the key in it, discussing North Korean missile launch with Japanese president while Mar-a-Lago guests gawk and take pics. A U.S. official with knowledge of the White House huddle last week said Trump revealed more information to the Russian ambassador that we have shared, really, with our own allies. Trump's code word information disclosure risks damaging the relationship with the intelligence source, which has access to ISIS inner workings. I get great intel. We got that line. I have people brief me on great intel every day. I don't understand a word of it, but they brief me every day. They're continually trying to brief me with things. And I have my tie this long so I can stick it in one ear and then just hold the other ear closed with one hand, and I still have one hand to tweet with. The White House reportedly contacted the CIA and National Security Agency after the meeting to contain the damage, which, by the way, is the equivalent. I guess this is what you do when the person who has perpetrated the espionage is immune from prosecution because of the classification laws or our misunderstanding and misapplication of classification laws. That call to the CIA and National Security is the equivalent of calling 911 to report a crime on anyone else. Anyone else, except possibly the vice president, thanks to Dick Cheney, who now claims the same insta-declassification authority. And probably Ivanka thinks she has the same thing too, or at least Jared does. But that they were basically calling 911. Hello, 911, I need to report a crime. What kind of crime? National security crime. A hold, please, for the NSA. U.S. reporters, of course, as is noted here, were not permitted to cover the meeting. Okay. So that's where we are at the moment in terms of the reporting from last night. I'm sure I've missed the latest, hottest stuff from this morning, but that's okay. We were on a roll. We were having a good time discussing this stuff, even though it means probably the end of Western civilization as we know it. Let's see. What else have we got here? Oh, thank you. Ricky up in Kazakhstan telling me that I have a better Trump impression than Stephen Colbert. And I think that has come up before. Thank you very much. I don't think does Stephen Colbert do one? I know he had somebody on. I went and looked last time to see what does his look like. And he had the guy on who was doing the President show, the new Comedy Central show. He's got a very good one, although his is a little comical and over the top too. Mine, in the same way that Alec Baldwin's is. Nobody, I don't think, nails it. I don't know. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe I do. The weirdest thing is it doesn't sound right in my head. Maybe because of the headphones. I don't know. But at least I'm doing it. I feel like I'm having some fun with it on our way out to oblivion, the end of the world. So hopefully you're enjoying it too. Grant Brown saying, thanks for channeling my anger to the world. Jordan is the only Middle Eastern Middle Eastern country that has had our back. So that also, well worth thinking about as well. What else have we got? Athena 5000. Real fake news here. Will the American people fall for this again? Let's see. Parlio saying, I searched Trump's Twitter history and the words "I apologize" never appear. That's likely true. I'll take your word for it anyway. But I think we all probably guessed as much, but thanks for checking it. What else have we here? Really? Look at this. Kate Sherrill. This gets us off track, but it's worth mentioning. You couldn't make this ish up. All the kids are saying ish instead of the S word these days, so we'll go with that one. Thank you. Okay, you keep me young here. All right. You couldn't make this up. What is it? It's The Hill reporting. Did Jimmy Fallon say this? Is this a joke? Did he say it? Is it real? Is it a real joke? Is it a funny joke? I don't know. It says, is it Jimmy Fallon or is it, all right, I'll click through. I say Fallon. Like, oh, everybody knows it's Jimmy Fallon. It could be a columnist named Fallon. I bet it is. Why am I saying it's Jimmy Fallon? Is it? Crap. It is. Tonight, though, it says, it's a tweet here. Trump plagiarized his commencement speech. Did he give it Oh, yes, right. Liberty University. Plagiarized his commencement speech from Legally Blonde, the movie Legally Blonde, the climactic graduation speech. At that, it really wasn't. Was it a great speech? I don't know. Oops, crap! I clicked the wrong button. I need to stick this in Pocket so I can share this link with you. I guess we'll take a look here. Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon on Monday aired a video comparing President Trump's recent commencement speech at Liberty University to the climactic graduation speech. I don't know how climactic it was, but it's in the movie Legally Blonde. Tonight, Trump plagiarized his commencement speech from Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, the show wrote on its Twitter account, including a mashup of the two speeches. Should we play that? How long is it? Let me start it here on the other computer that doesn't put it through the air, and if it'll play, it'll show me how long the thing is, and I'll decide whether we can. Nah, of course not. Why would anything work? Ha ha. Son of a. All right. Well, anyway. Among the examples in the video, here, we'll do it this way. Reese Witherspoon's character says, "We take our next steps into the world," while Trump on Saturday said, "You must go forth into the world." That's not a plagiarism. All right. In his speech at Liberty University, his first commencement address as president, Trump spoke of faith and its role throughout American history. This is the end of it? All right. It's funny. Maybe you have to see the mashup. Does that make any sense of it? Because honestly, what else are you going to say at a commencement speech? That's stock stuff. I hope there's more. Let's see. Almost certainly. Well, now I'm committed to it. Kate, this is not your fault. But let's see. Will any of the embedded video play on the laptop? Let's check it out. How long is this thing anyway?
We take our next steps into the world.
You must go forth into the world.
It is with passion, courage of conviction,
courage in your convictions,
and most importantly,
have faith in yourself. Be true to yourself.
We did it!
I did it.
What? Oh my God. Well, that must have been, well, anyway, I'm sure that they chopped up I hope they chopped up his speech a little bit in order to make it work. But, man.
What's going on?
Okay, what else have we had? There's been so many hoax stories of stolen speeches from movies being circulated that, okay, well, we'll take it with a grain of salt. But who cares? He's a spy, and we should probably be focusing on that instead. But I appreciate the opportunity to inject a little levity into things. Let's see, was there anything else here? Michael Musson noting the president is officially adding "I meant to do it" to his existing "I know you are, but what am I" doctrine. And, I suppose that summarizes things pretty well. And, yes, also Kate noticing that Trumpers are so desperate for distractions from his scandals that they're digging up fake Clinton scandals from over 2 decades ago. Mediaite reporting that while the world focuses on Trump's security disclosures, Fox and Friends and Ken Starr are discussing Vince Foster's death. Thanks very much for getting super constructive on that. Over at Fox and Friends. We never, of course, look to them for anything of any serious value in any situation like this. So not particularly surprising. Anything else that absolutely must be shoehorned in? Because I wanted to try and work it. I'm now 2 stories deep on our contributor John R. from Texas, and I've fallen behind on this stuff. And let's take a slight break from the unlimited outrage that we could be having about literally the worst thing that Donald Trump has done to date, I think, as president, certainly. He's probably done something worse in private life beforehand. But let's make good on this and just take the opportunity to catch up on some interesting domestic news. This one here, let me dig up the article that he sent me as well. Did I, the next question is, did I stash it in Pocket, or did I stash it in the email chain that I had with John? I think, I stashed it in here. The Texas Tribune's piece from earlier this month, last week, a swarm of Texas Democrats vying for 2 Republican seats in the U.S. House. I think, it makes for interesting news, in addition to the little tidbit of gossip we were discussing, at least briefly yesterday, when people were talking about the possibility of John Cornyn as FBI director, would set off an even bigger chain reaction, of course, by opening up a Senate seat. But I thought this was an interesting story, and I wanted to thank John for passing it on. And gosh, I could use a short break anyway from the outrage machine. Let's roll with John R.'s contribution on the politics situation down in Texas.
This article is from the Texas Tribune, May 3rd, 2017. Swarm of Texas Democrats vying for 2 Republican seats in U.S. House, by Abby Livingston. Something strange is happening in Texas. Ambitious Democrats are coming out of the woodwork to run for Congress in places few in the party paid attention to even just a year ago. Take the 7th Congressional District, currently represented by Houston Republican John Culberson. 4 Democrats have already filed for the seat before Wednesday morning, when 2 more jumped in. Quote, "I'm running for Congress because I think we need to hold the president accountable," said Alex Trantfilis, the director of Immigration and Economic Opportunity at Neighborhood Centers, Inc., a Houston nonprofit. He said his young daughter was a motivating force for his run. Quote, "I want her to know that we got results in our efforts, that we didn't just have good intentions," he added. Jason Weston, a cancer researcher, was thinking along similar lines Wednesday morning. "The politics of late is prompting me to say that this is enough, and we need to get new people who aren't the typical politicians and get off the sidelines and do something," he said after his own announcement. In past cycles, national Democratic groups had had a heavy hand in candidate recruitment and telegraphed favored candidates to donors and reporters. This time around, thanks to a burst of anti-Trump enthusiasm and wounds from the 2016 presidential primary fight, party workers are letting the primary process run its course through without playing favorites in many districts around the country, including Dallas and Houston. The result is a crush of candidates lining to run for office, including 3 who announced their campaigns on Wednesday. Trianta Phyllis and Weston joined a crowded field vying to run against Culberson that already included Joshua Butler, James Cargas, Deborah Kerner, and Laura Moser. Up north in Dallas, former Hillary Clinton staffer Ed Meyer also announced he would join former NFL player Colin Allred in running for the Democratic nomination to take on U.S. Representative Pete Sessions. Several others, including Aubrey Tyler Hewlett, Stephen Leroy Love, Ronald William Marshall, Danielle Pellet, and Darrell Allen Rodriguez, have also filed to run for the seat. Party officials anticipate even more candidates to run in both districts. Quote, "It is extremely unique. We don't usually have this volume of conversations by April of the off years," said Jeff Rutkoff of candidate outreach to his organization, the Texas AFL-CIO. "We have more interest in people running for Congress than I've ever experienced in my career," end quote. As for these 2 seats, the Dallas-based 32nd District and the Houston-based 7th District, Republicans scoff at the notion that either is competitive. John Culberson and Pete Sessions have strongly defined independent brands fitting their respective districts, which is why they've proven they could win in every political environment, said Jack Pandel, a National Republican Congressional Committee spokesman. While Democrats pat themselves on the back, their candidates will be left to navigate bloody primaries, attempting to thread the needle between increasingly vocal far-left base and mainstream Texas voters. In the recent past, National Democrats were often overt in playing favorites in National House primaries. But now, power brokers in Washington are reluctant to weigh in for two reasons. The sheer number of recruits is overwhelming, and there is little appetite to anger the grassroots. Democrats in Washington are flat unsure if they can win these seats, but they want to have candidates in place because Hillary Clinton carried these two districts last fall, even as Trump won the state by 9 points. Culberson and Sessions have survived challenges with ease in the past, but some Democrats on Capitol Hill are growing more optimistic about their chances of retaking the House in 2018 and see Texas as a place to expand the map. Whoever wins those primaries could become what in Washington is referred to as surfers, meaning candidates who take advantage of a 2018 wave to ride into office. U.S. Representative Blake Farenthold, Republican of Corpus Christi, was just such a candidate during the 2010 GOP wave, knocking out a longtime Democratic incumbent, U.S. Representative Solomon Ortiz. And National Democrats could claim a moral victory even if none of these candidates ever makes it to Congress. Both Sessions and Culberson are major contributors to the national effort to win U.S. House seats. They channel hundreds of thousands of dollars from their campaigns to help other House candidates around the country. If a Democratic challenge spooks either of them into buying general election television ads in their district, that's money not being sent to GOP incumbents in places like California or Pennsylvania. But for now, even optimistic Democrats consider these seats on the competitive fringes, while the focus centers on incumbents like U.S. Representative Will Hurd of Elotes, who represents a district that regularly flips between the parties. That seat's Democratic field is less clear thanks to ongoing litigation over the district's line and contenders who have yet to make decisions. But state GOP spokesman Mike Joyce pointed to that seat as the proof that the Democrats' optimism is flawed. If you are betting on the fact that in 2016 Hillary Clinton outperformed Donald Trump, that somehow that's going to trickle down to a congressional race, I would point to Congressional District 23, where that happened as well, noting that Hurd outperformed Trump's margins there. And yet, Democratic candidates flocking to already crowded primaries seem not to care about such arguments. Competitive primaries can be mixed blessings. Most of these contenders have never run for office before. A competitive primary gives the winning candidate a chance to learn and improve before the general election Klieg lights turn their way. The most famous example of this is then U.S. Senator Barack Obama's epic presidential primary against then U.S. Senator Hillary Clinton in 2008. A primary campaign can also energize the base and get the campaign off the ground early. But not every primary ends like the Clinton-Obama fight. Many saw Clinton's primary last year against U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, a Vermont independent, as damaging to her in the general election campaign. Still, National Democrats note that the Texas primary is one of the earliest on the calendar in early March. Campaigning for a nomination rarely kicks up in full force until after the holidays, allowing for only about 2 months of intense fighting unless there's a runoff. The biggest drawback of primaries at the congressional level, however, is financial. A competitive primary campaign, particularly in expensive media markets like Dallas and Houston, has the potential to deplete funds a candidate could put toward the fall campaign. No matter, says Rutkoff, the veteran of Texas Democratic politics, he argued that a respectful primary process to serve in Congress ought not to be a cakewalk. The voters are served when candidates have to work really hard for this amazing job. He said, "It's such a unique and special thing that it ought to be hard to get."
Thank you, John, for bringing us that one. That's a very interesting contribution to, there's a real puzzle going on here, and I like the article, the way it illustrates the inherent tension between the two typical positions that the two positions most typically staked out with respect to questions of who ought to and who ought not to be running in a primary. I guess, by the way, we might as well point out that both sides can actually be wrong. They can both be describing different ways, different paths to victory, and also different paths to sure defeat as well. The question of whether the primary ought to be left wide open for anyone to contest without any sort of interference from Washington-based strategists or career political professionals because, after all, they've given us any number of losers in the past or even abandoned races entirely and left a Republican majority largely intact without even trying to challenge it. That's definitely true. And on the other hand, yes, there is the very likely possibility of the dissipation of both Democratic energy and certainly Democratic dollars in fighting your way through 7-way primaries or even 2-way primaries occasionally, just end up dissipating energy and money. Not always, and it's not one size fits all, and it's difficult to tell, and maybe it's even possible to say, well, the best thing to do is to err on the side of one or the other, and maybe the openness one is the less costly of the two, particularly in this current political atmosphere. But it does happen, and there are, assets that go to waste that could have been directed towards something better. If the object is to win the largest number of seats, and I guess there's some school of thought that says, well, in general, that's our goal there too. But at the same time, it's also important. I think we do maximize our power nationally if we're contesting seats everywhere, even where there could be a loss. And sometimes it even boosts Democratic interests in the next district over. Even if you lose the neighboring district, if there's a fight going on over the border and you can see Democrats fighting everywhere, it may raise energy. You never know. You can't tell how it's going to come out. You probably shouldn't approach the situation by pretending to be sure. You can be a big believer in your position, yes, but at some point, certainly at least in private conversation with other like-minded Democrats, you can occasionally admit, I could be wrong about that. That is a possibility. I will entertain it. And then everyone is a lot less angry when it's all over. I think that's probably the best preventative medicine for an intra-party fight that I can think of. Acknowledge early that you could be wrong, but you have to take a stand one way or the other. You can't do a little bit of both. At least in any one given race. You can do a little bit of both nationally, but okay, so that wasn't the point of it. but a great, I think it's great news that there are energized Democrats all over Texas. That's awesome, obviously. And then the question is, how do you channel that energy best? And the answer is, nobody knows. Some people think it's best to channel it early into one person or a very small number of people. Others think spread the net as widely as possible. That way they activate their own support networks and you've energized the most number of people available. I guess that's certainly possible. I guess in that situation, then it becomes incumbent upon those who run and lose to run from the beginning with the idea in mind that they are going to energize their personal networks and keep them energized through the general election, even if they don't win. And man, that's difficult to do if the primary is bruising, and especially if you're the one that's been bruised in all this. How can I ask my friends to stand behind the primary election campaign winner when I think he cheated, or she said nasty things about me, or I think that one had a PAC that ran this? It's very difficult to do, putting aside the personal. But that's kind of the job description. And by the way, it's something that we end up criticizing later on when the person wins, and if they happen to be lucky enough to win the general election and then go to Congress and then put the personal aside for something. But if it's in pursuit of the passage of a policy with which we disagree, we get angry at them. How could you be so inhuman and put the personal aside to vote for? How could you sell out is the question we then ask them. How could you, I don't know. Do we not ask that question? How could you sell out and ask me, who contributed to you and believed in you, to contribute to and vote for that person that said such nasty things about you? Well, it requires a certain kind of compartmentalization that not everyone is willing to do, and that's why politics isn't for everyone. And I don't know. I think that story illustrates it nicely. I do have another piece from John R. from Texas. We will hold on to that one for some time in the near future just to catch up, to make sure that we are up to speed on what's happening in Texas. But he's got a tantalizing piece that perhaps I can share in advance of or discuss later with Greg Dworkin, a Texas anti-vaccination bill that's or an element to a bill in Texas that we were seeing more and more stories spring up everywhere, outbreaks of measles, etc. Long-standing issue, anti-vaccination agitation here in the United States. So we'll get to that one in the near future. Thanks again, John. And let's wrap up. We got about 10 minutes or so left before we finally pull the plug, but just about 7 or so before we have to tell you what's coming up next on the after show. And the answer, by the way, is everything we haven't got to yet because we spent the day raging about the biggest breach of national security by a president, I would guess, probably in our history. Okay, so let's see. What else have we to catch up on with? Ricky with another comment. She was in the shower from our previous comment. In the shower, listening to you say who was in the meeting with Trump, and I started singing The Room Where It Happens from Hamilton. Oh, okay, so you didn't miss it. Are you listening in the shower? What do you know? Yeah, in the shower listening. Waterproof podcasting. That's a big improvement in technology these days. The Juicero, I guess, of podcasting. I don't know what that even means. But okay, let's see. What else can we squeeze in here for the day? Let me recommend to you. I don't think we're ever, maybe some Friday we would read it on the air. Or over the summer, I'm beginning to plan summer vacations, and there's going to be long ones, and there might even be one that's a week and a half because it might involve some college campus visits with my son. Oh my God, I'm so old. Maybe we would share that's the one I should clean out Pocket and just read all the old articles, things we missed, and we can revisit them. They might even be more interesting with the ability to look back. But I wanted to recommend to you today's hot article from The Atlantic that I think sounds really interesting. I've seen a lot of people share this one. It's an amazing piece. Alex Tizon is the writer on this. It's called My Family's Slave. It's really, if you haven't seen it yet, take a look. My Family's Slave, subtitle here or right underneath. She lived with us for 56 years. She raised me and my siblings without pay. I was 11, a typical American kid, before I realized who she was. A very, very interesting story. This one with a little bit of a twist to it in that we're talking about a family, a Filipino-American immigrant family that has brought with them their domestic worker, but of course they're coming from a slightly different culture there in the Philippines than here in the United States, but lots to it that would be recognizable for a lot of people born and raised in America in a certain era, in which, for instance, live-in housekeeping and child-rearing help was widely available. Isn't it a very interesting topic to me? I think you'll find this one pretty interesting too. And it was different. I mean, I imagine that most families in America who had live-in domestic help as middle-class families back in the, say, 50s, 60s into the 70s paid them. I can't imagine that you could get away with not paying them, although who knows what they were paying them and how much, and whether they were paying them under the table, and whether food and room and board come with the price there, and so the pay is minimal. But here in this case, the pay was nothing. And yeah, only now does he really realize exactly what the relationship was between his family and this woman who lived with them as their housekeeper and nanny for 56 years, well beyond being a nanny, I guess. Just kind of amazing. And I've thought about that in the past, and it was a weird thing that into the 50s, 60s, into the 70s, that regular, upper middle class families did in fact have people who took care of everything that would be considered an enormous luxury and only really available to the very wealthy these days. And it's not because American middle-class families have dissipated all of their wealth, although a lot of it is being stolen from them too. But it's one of the first things I ever actually wrote about, actually, in a diary at Daily Kos, if I think all the way back to the first time I joined, once they had diaries, anyway. But thinking about, what happened to that, as I was standing there washing dishes one day and saying, when I was a kid, my grandparents had somebody who would do this. They had a housekeeper, and she lived in with them, and she helped raise my dad and my aunt, and You never see that anymore. I mean, we consider ourselves to be upper middle class these days, and there's no chance. I can't, and lots of people around have, maid services that come in and clean once or twice a week, and I guess we could do that, but I'm too much of a homebody and I don't want to deal with that. Plus, I don't feel very good about hiring people to do that for some reason, even though it's good work, and I don't know why people wouldn't want money for it. It's just a weird situation, but yeah, and then I realized, all the money that this is before there was avocado toast, another thing that has just popped up, and I have no goddamn idea what that is. If it's not avocado on toast, I don't know what it is, and if that is it, then I don't know why that's popular. But okay, before people accused millennials of dissipating all of their disposable income on avocado toast, and so therefore they couldn't afford houses, which seems like an awfully dumb thing to say, because how much does this toast cost? Could be a house. Anyway, I thought to myself many years ago about what happened to them. The money we used to spend, that we could have spent employing domestic help of any kind, whether live-in or otherwise. If I wanted people to come in and clean the house daily or twice a week or anything, it's not like I couldn't come up with the money, but where has all that money gone? You certainly couldn't have domestic help. That seems in live-in enormously expensive. And then I realized, the house is filled with flat screen TVs and computers and electronic equipment of all kinds, and the kids have iPhones and all of that. And I know that the comparison has been drawn. I've dissipated my ability to buy health insurance because of the iPhones. Somebody else has dissipated their ability to buy a house because of avocado toast, allegedly. But it seemed a little bit more on the nose that all the electronics that we've bought and smart refrigerators, we don't have one of those, or upgraded appliances or professional kitchen equipment as though I cooked for anything, right? All of that kind of stuff. That wasn't available. That disposable income was just sitting there, and everybody had domestic help living in, so you went and got the same thing, because why not? That's great. That's a way to spend your money. Interestingly, so here's I guess the thesis of this stupid thing that I wrote many years ago was, where has all the money gone? And it's all gone into, I think, electronics and cars and just upgraded crap that we happen to have disposable income for now that domestic help isn't widely available to all of us. And I just thought it was curious that so much of that was manufactured overseas, and in fact manufactured in China, of course, communist nation, or Mexico, where not a small number of domestic workers used to come from as well. All that money is being shipped overseas into those systems, which you would think at the heart of the old original Chinese communism. Wouldn't be a bad idea to try to undermine the class system in America, whereby a permanent underclass was employed as domestic servants in the homes of the wealthy. I don't think that was their aim. They just wanted our cash. But what a happy side effect for them. We'll explore that perhaps some other day. In the meantime, do take a look at My Family's Slave by Alex Tizon in The Atlantic. Highly recommended. Lots of people talking about that one if you want to have your finger on the pulse of what our audience is reading today. What about what our audience has not yet heard about today? Because I was blabbing too much about Trump's blabbing. That's next on the After Show. New York City moves to bar federal agents from entering schools after ICE agents attempted to arrest a fourth grader. Heard about this one. By the way, no adult crimes you guys could be busting. A probe of illegal gun sales through the Chicago Water Department. What? Reveals a trove of racist emails. Holy crap. Every problem in the world wrapped up in one. And the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Division is looking into money laundering at Trump's gaming and real estate ventures. We heard about that one. Thanks for following up on that. On the last half, Chris Reeves, Tom Servo 433, for yet more intriguing political discussion.
From Daily Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Thank you for listening. That discussion, by the way, that Chris will be leading on Facebook community standards. Also, why a panel of judges citing Korematsu is probably not a good thing for Trump's lawyer. And when is divulging secret intel in the Oval Office just a friendly rejoinder among friends? When Trump says so, I guess. That coming next on the After Show. Next.